Hey everyone, Dan from FP Geeks here, and my daughter Arya is going to be helping me with the review today, so you may hear her throughout the rest of the video. Today I am going to be reviewing a very interesting pen from Pilot, the Custom Heritage 912. Now, if you're not familiar with the 912, that's probably because it isn't carried by Pilot North America, so it's not available in the US, but it is pretty easy to get a hold of. Just follow the link in the video description below to get one of your own. Thankfully, Pilot North America was able to get me this unit to review, and with the FA Falcon nib I requested. What's the FA Falcon nib, you ask? Well, aren't you in for a treat? If you've seen any of my previous Pilot pen reviews, then this packaging will look familiar. If you haven't, then just know that this is pretty standard fare for Pilot pens. The black sleeve slides off to reveal a clamshell style case with a faux leather exterior and a clear window on top. Nothing too exciting here. The pen, on the other hand, is very exciting. Think of the Custom Heritage 912 as the older stepbrother to the 92. The size and shape are very similar, but the 912 doesn't have a piston or come in transparent resins. It features rhodium-plated trim and a flat-top design. The shape of the clip is simple and gives the pen a more modern look than the ball-style clip found on the gold-plated Custom series. Its front profile is reminiscent of a sword blade, and from the side you can see that there's no curve in it, like what you would find on the Falcon. In everyday use, I found the clip to be practical and very easy to use. Directly below the clip on the cap band is the word Heritage, that's part of the phrase Custom Heritage 912. Continuing around the back are Pilot Japan. The 912 is a moderately large pen. You can see it's very nearly identical in size to the blue Pelican M805 on its left. On its right is the Custom Heritage 92. On the far left is the Mont Blanc 149, and the far right the Pelican M200. The number 10 sized Pilot nib stacks up well, but seeing it next to the M805 makes me wish there was a number 15 nib in its place. The 912 does post a little deeper than the M805, and together with its lightweight resin construction makes it a supremely comfortable pen to use when posted. It does still feel good when not posted, but it's just a little light for me. I prefer the added size and weight of the pen when it's posted. One thing I've noticed with every Pilot pen I've used is that the cap posts securely, and the 912 is no different. One aspect that makes this pen so comfortable to use is the section's profile. If you hold the pen really close to the nib, you'll probably enjoy how the section flares out at the end instead of having a protruding lip. Stretching out to the other end, the section gently increases in diameter until it reaches the barrel. It's smooth and simple and lets me focus on controlling the nib. And that nib is really what we're all here to see. The FA Falcon nib you see here is just one of 15 different nibs available in the Custom Heritage 912, including the Waverly, the stub, the posting nib, and a true music nib with 3 tines. The Custom 742 and 743 are the only other 2 pens available with this many nib options. Unfortunately, neither are available in the US, but hopefully that'll change soon. As I'm sure you've noticed by now, the FA nib has 2 huge cutouts on each side. This design is what allows the FA nib to achieve its softness and flexibility. But before I can show it off, I need to ink it up. And for that, I'm going to use Roshizuku Amairo. It's one of my favorite inks because it's so well behaved and the color is absolutely gorgeous. The 912 comes with the Con 70 pump converter installed, which is my converter of choice since it holds more ink than the other 2 options, with a capacity of 1.0 milliliters. So what's the big deal about the FA nib? Well, this is a pretty big deal. There's not a lot of modern nibs that can flex this much. The new Wall Eversharp is about the only one I can think of, and they don't feel nearly as nice as the FA nib. In this upcoming shot, you can see that the FA nib is capable of some serious flex, easily spreading its tines out to 1.6 millimeters, and I've seen examples of it taken to 2.5, but I think that's going a bit too far. For comparison, I can push the Namiki Falcon to 1.4 millimeters, but it feels like the tines will snap if I go any further. The FA nib, on the other hand, actually feels like it's capable of going much further, but the feed just isn't prepared to handle it. But sometimes it's not the feed's fault at all. For some reason, this nib, no matter what ink was in the pen, is very sensitive to even trace amounts of oil on the paper. or at least that's my only conclusion to why it writes so well on some parts of the page and not at all on others. Attempting this test on other sheets of paper within the same notebook from other notebooks or completely different types of paper yields near perfect results, and it's the same no matter what ink is in the pen. I've inspected the nib and there's no baby's bottom, which would result in the hard starts, and the tines are touching at the tip as they're supposed to on flexible nibs. So the only thing I have left to blame the nib's inconsistencies on is oil on the paper. Seeing the FA nib's somewhat poor performance, you might be wondering why even bother with this nib. Well, Pilot has designed the FA nibs with Asian calligraphy in mind. Asian calligraphy uses more short strokes and has more pauses between writing each character compared to the flowing lines and swells used in copperplate or similar styles of writing in the West. Keeping in mind what the nib and more appropriately the feed were designed for, you can see that the FA nib is well suited for the task. In everyday writing where I wasn't flexing the nib, it performed perfectly. Its super soft feel definitely makes you think of a brush pen, which is exactly what this nib is trying to emulate. The reason I think so many users are disappointed with this nib, and there are a lot of those kinds of reviews out there, is because they expect it to be a full flex vintage replacement. I'll tell you right now that there is no modern equivalent to vintage full flex. One reason I think people's expectations are a little high is because they hear soft and flexible and immediately think they can start using this pen for copperplate. People just aren't informed about what this pen is designed for and what its capabilities are. Granted, this particular nib was a little finicky with regards to there being any kind of oil on the page. Its general performance, though, was very good. If I stayed within the feed's limits, it performed very well, and taking small, frequent pauses allowed the flow to come back and reduce any railroading. Another reason I think many users are disappointed with this pen is because of how much potential is in the nib and it being paired with a feed that's barely adequate. Really though, given the quality of Pilot's nibs and their pens, don't you think if they wanted to design a feed that could keep up with our style of flexible writing, they could? I really don't think it's because they're incompetent. I mean, there's a reason why this nib isn't sold outside the Japanese market. If it does ever come to the US, Pilot's main goal is going to be educating buyers about this pen's intended purpose and what it is and isn't capable of. So that's the Pilot Custom Heritage 912 and the FA nib. This pen sells for about $165 from Engaika.com, and I think it's a solid buy. Even without the FA nib, if you're looking for a pen a little larger than the Custom Heritage 92 and want more nib options, the 912 is a solid choice at a really good price. And I'll be reviewing the Custom 743 with the larger number 15 FA nib, and I'll be comparing those to the Namiki Falcon, the Justice 95, and even throw in some Vintage Flex to see how they all compare. So subscribe to our channel so you don't miss those videos, and hit that like button if you enjoyed this review. Leave a comment and let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.
Indulge